I mean, I don't want to go off on a fucking huge tangent here, but I worked for a school district for 8 years, and I saw the destructive nature of Common Core. I saw how it just doesn't work. It doesn't educate children.
Why doesn't it work? Because
it does
lay it out. I've heard of so many people talk about Common Core, but you actually were on the ground.
Yeah, I was on the ground, and I saw what happened.
Paul,
At least
when was it implemented? When was it implemented?
I don't know an exact year, but I know that it came into being. I worked for a school district for 8 years as a technology consultant, and I was the one that was setting up the back end of Common Core. That was my job, setting up the testing environment for Common Core. And I watched as it happened, and what Common Core does is it completely ignores two things that I think are essential to a good education. Number one, it completely ignores aptitudes in students, interests in students. Students should be encouraged to pursue the things that they are interested in and not penalized for things that they're not as good at. You know what? I struggled with math my entire life. I consider myself a reasonably intelligent person. Put me in a fucking math class, I'm dumb. Because that's not the way my brain works, right?
Yeah, me too.
It completely
totally.
ignores that with children. They do not nurture children anymore in their aptitudes. They treat children like they're little information vessels, right? And then the second thing that it does wrong is it completely removes autonomy from a teacher. Like, teaching is such a creative profession. Teachers have this their own style of teaching. Yeah. I had teachers growing up in the same school district that I worked in for 8 years that changed my fucking life, that changed my perspective. Teachers aren't allowed to do that anymore because they're given a script and they're told, stand in front of your kids, read this script, test them in this way. There's no creativity in education anymore.
So you think that it's been, basically what you're saying is you think it's been standardized to the point where it, like, the life has been sucked out of it.
Absolutely. And on top of that, it's used as a bludgeon against teachers, right? I'm a big advocate for reform in teachers unions. I think that teachers unions cause a lot of problems. I don't want to abolish teachers unions, but this idea that you can't fire a bad teacher because they have tenure is bullshit.
I agree with that.
I watched so many teachers that didn't give a fuck teaching classrooms 40-1, 40 kids to one teacher, teaching classrooms of kids they couldn't give a shit about. That has to stop. And if it doesn't stop, we are fucked going forward. Fuck!
Damn, Paul's getting fired up. I like this.
He is. No, Paul,
no,
this is common for Paul.
This is my shit. You know what I mean? Because to bring it all full circle, and then I'll shut up and let everybody else talk. Kids are programmed to believe what you tell them. And there's a reason for that, biologically. If you tell a kid, don't go near the river because there's fucking crocodiles that'll eat you, they need to believe you, right? Biology works that way. We're telling children lies, and we're sanctioning it in this country. We are sanctioning the idea that a parent can keep their child out of school and teach them that Noah's Ark is true. Fuck that! Fuck it! If we don't stop now, we are fucked. Because these are the people that elect Donald Trump. These are the people that allow the DNC to rot to the point where Hillary Clinton, the massive failure that is Hillary Clinton, is put at the fucking masthead of a party.
Hey, Paul.
Sorry.
Hey, Paul, man.
We may
bring
have
on the
neighbors.
nukes, right? Bring on the nukes.
Bring on
that
the
was
nukes,
awesome.
Yeah.
I was responsible for 3 schools at a time, and I spent time at most of the schools in my area. There were 20 elementary schools, and I think 8 middle schools and 2 high schools in my district at the time I was working there. There might have even been more elementary. I might be low on that. It might have been closer to 30. A lot of schools. And I had the opportunity to work on every one of those campuses at some point or another. And I had direct responsibility over 3 of them in any given year. So I was pretty intimately involved in that shit. I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I spent a lot of years listening to educators talk, watching educators at various levels of responsibility. See, I don't just have one view. I wasn't just with the teachers. I was with the teachers and their bosses, the teachers' aides. I was with the fucking administration officials all the way up to the fucking superintendent, all the behind-the-scenes guys, like all the big, fucking district office officials and shit. I knew them all. I talked to them all. So, I heard all the different perspectives. And I watched the kids, like, you know, because I was there for 8 years, there were some kids that were in first grade or kindergarten when I started that were going into high school when I quit, you know. I think it's hard to be a principal, absolutely. I mean, it's an insane amount of responsibility, and you're kind of sandwiched in between two levels of responsibility. So you're the boss of the entire school, but you've got so many people right above you, so many fucking people sticking their nose in your business, and if that school doesn't do good in one metric or another, well, your neck is on the line. So it creates this kind of adversarial nature between the administration and the teachers, which is really bad. Now, really good principals don't have that relationship with their teachers, but most of the principals are hated by the teachers that they work with, for the most part. Do you think having this experience was worth it? I don't know. I mean, worth it? What do you mean? It put food on my table for 8 years. I guess it was worth it. I try and take away stuff from it, and I really had there was a crisis point with me at that job where I just couldn't work it anymore. Like I went to my wife at the time, and I just told her, I said, I'm gonna end up fucking shooting myself in the head or something at this job, because the negativity should have just gotten worse. Money had gotten tighter, class sizes larger, teachers were laid off, and the level of negativity on every campus, and just the level of the overarching feeling of failure was just soaking into me. You know what I mean? It was soaking into my skin. I'd go there every day, and everybody hated their job, and everybody didn't want to be there, and everybody was pissed off. And it came out, in people's interactions with me. It came out in how the teachers treated the students, how the principals treated the teachers, how the principals treated me, how the principals' bosses treated the principals and the teachers. It was just a constant fucking waterfall of negativity. It was just like Niagara Falls every day. I'd walk onto campus and you just feel it. Before you even saw somebody, you just feel it. The oppressive aura of negative that just hung over those places. The kids were all unhappy. They all hated it. They hated being there. They were bored. Hated their teachers for the most part. Hated their principal. Hated the school. Hated the curriculum. Bored. Stupid rules. Just, and I'm going to that every day. And I'm there 10, 12 hours every day. It's like, driving me insane. I was going crazy, dude. Your mom's a school principal, and she's always either asleep or dealing with unwanted bullshit. I believe it, dude. Like I said, I used to work directly for principals, and I saw how much they worked and how constant the stream of drivel was. Some of them still managed to kick the fuck back, though. I had a couple of principals that you could just tell their entire philosophy was, I do as little as possible. Start delegating shit. They have their office staff doing reports and stuff for them, and they're just in their, like, they'd call me to fix something, and I'd walk in, and they'd be in this nice office, super climate controlled, with their feet up on the desk, listening to fucking Spotify when I showed up. And I'd be like, oh, hey, oh, yeah, man, this thing's being, what are you doing? Aren't you a principal? But no, that's, I had a few principals that were just, it wasn't even a got 'em moment. They didn't even look like I caught them doing something. They'd just be like, oh, hey, yeah, here's the problem right here. Like, I'm just to expect that that's part of being a principal, is just chilling in your office with the air conditioning blasting, listening to Spotify or watching YouTube or some shit, or looking at your Facebook. That was the big one. The Facebook shit was big when I was working, especially when I first started. Everybody was constantly on Facebook. Every teacher, instead of working, looking at their phone, doing Facebook. We eventually got to the point where they just blocked all social media sites, and then teachers got all pissed off. Like, what about on our breaks? What about on our breaks, man? We can't do Facebook on our breaks no more, man. It was just a constant battle. It was just it's a constant back and forth bullshit. Yeah, I don't care if people aren't taking it seriously. It's one of those things that I harp about, another one of my stupid old man rants, I guess. And I don't know if you'll be able to get away with it. Like I said, bad principals and bad teachers are treated kind of like the Catholic Church treats priests that diddle kids. Instead of being fired, because that would require, union support or a lack of solidarity in the administration side, instead of firing them, they just get moved around from school to school. So if a teacher's doing really poorly at a school, rather than firing him or her, they'll just take them and go like, all right, well, this next year you work over here at Ripperton. And then that teacher goes over there and lo and behold, keeps being shitty, keeps sucking. And so, they stay there for 2 years and the administration's finally fed up with them. And so they get moved again. Oh, maybe a change of venue will fix this. No, how about you fire somebody and start paying somebody that actually wants to be a teacher? How about that? It don't work that way though. You gotta like basically murder a kid or molest a kid or something to get fired as a teacher. If you don't hit a kid, if you don't like physical violence or yell and scream, like if you just maintain, like if you're just lazy and do nothing, you're not going to get fired as a teacher. As long as you show up, in time to let your class into the room and you appear to be trying to teach them something, you're not going to get fired. Teachers need to get paid more, I agree, but there need to be more stringent requirements for those teachers to deliver if that's going to be the case. Because right now, the level of protection that they get from the teachers union, while I agree it's necessary, I don't want to abolish teachers unions, but I definitely want there to be some kind of controls, placed in the collective bargaining agreements that, agree that teachers shouldn't be moved around like diddling priests. Same thing with principals too, though, and that's not even a union protected job. That's, basically administration. So they've got, professional coalition, but they don't have a union. There's no principals union. So, but it's the same thing with them. If a principal is brought to a school to try and turn it around, and that principal doesn't immediately turn the school around, or that principal sucks and all the staff hates them, then instead of firing that principal or demoting that principal, they just move him to a new school or her to a new school. Shoop. Go to a new school. Shoop. That'll fix it. Dude, I had this teacher, I won't mention any names, but she was just like, and there was no excuse for it either. Technology became a big part of how teachers were doing their jobs. They had these smart boards. Promethean was the company that made ours, but there's a company actually called Smart Boards too. But it's, you project the image, you can control it with a special pin that basically makes it a mouse pointer. So it gives them all this freedom and mobility when they're teaching. They can pull pictures in and make them bigger and shit. It's really cool technology, and our district bought into it in a big way. Now, I don't know if I would have recommended that, but they didn't ask me. Multi-million dollars worth of buying Promethean boards and putting them in classrooms, along with, short throw projectors and all of the technology that goes into supporting those boards, which is retarded. And the teachers were expected to use them, The district had spent a ton of fucking money on these boards and expected teachers to actually make use of them. They wanted to see a change in the way that teaching was done. Well, there were always teachers that never really got it, and some of them were just old ladies or old men that just, you could tell, like, they're not comfortable with technology in the first place. Now, I don't think that's an excuse. If you got a job and all of a sudden, the nature of that job changes and you need to know more about it, it's like on you to learn. Like, all of those teachers were smart enough to learn how to navigate a computer. They just didn't want to. They didn't like the computer. They didn't want to use it. But there was one who was just a total nightmare. She was always complaining about her stuff not working, right? And instead of complaining to me, who was the tech guy, she would complain to the district office and the principal. And now she was well known in the district for being totally off her rocker and shit. But I don't know, dude. She just refused to learn. Like, just wouldn't do it. And it was like she was such a case for being fired. Such a case. Like, she could have easily been fired, and some younger, and it wasn't even because of her age, but I'm just saying some younger, idealistic, fresh out of college teacher that really has a passion for teaching students could have had that job and used all that great technology. And instead, that slot was filled with a woman that had no intentions of ever learning anything, complained constantly about how she couldn't do the things that were required of her because the technology was never working. And every time I'd hear it through the grapevine that she needed help, I'd go visit her and go, hey, yeah, I heard from the principal that you can't use your technology. And I'd go in there and everything would be working fine. She just didn't know how to use her technology. So I even tried to help her. I went to the principal and I said, look, Mrs. So-and-so, you know, she's not getting it. And like, I'd like to spend some time with her training, like one-on-one, to show her how to use all this stuff. Really spend some time. He's like, she's been to the trainings. She's been to all the trainings that the teachers have been to. And I was like, I know, but she ain't getting it. All these calls you're getting and all the calls that are going up above your head, like, it's because she doesn't know how to use the stuff in her room. And I did that with her. He let me do it. He gave me, like, he paid me extra overtime to sit there and do a training session with her that was like 3 hours long after school. She learned nothing. The next day she was saying her shit didn't work again. And I went in there and it was just fine. Fire her. Fire her. And hire somebody that knows what they're doing. Yeah, I was friends with some of the teachers. Some of the really cool teachers. I mean, not like friends, like we would go chill a whole bunch outside of work, but we had really close, like, friendly, you know, kind of rapport with them. Like, they knew, because they knew I really cared about my job, and I did, you know, say what you want about me, but, like, I cared about that job. I tried really hard. I busted my ass. I worked overtime all the time. You know, I was there early, just like the best teachers were, doing my job early, trying to get stuff done, trying to clear tickets. So there were a few teachers that really appreciated that for me and went out of their way to develop really good working friendships with me. I wasn't really good friends with any of the people on my team, like the other people that did my job, except for one dude, a guy named Terry. He was awesome. Terry was dope. He was my smoking buddy. He's a little older than me, but we, you know, both kind of came up with the same, you know, sensibilities, like the same kind of movies and music. So we were just real fast friends. And we had a little kind of routine here and there of chilling after work, smoking out together, and just shit talking everybody else that worked there, basically. He was my best bud over there. Yeah, I've been trying to get a hold of him. I still have his number and shit, but he's just been busy the last couple of times I've been in town. I need to get a hold of him before I go to Madeira the next time, so I can schedule a little time with him. Next time I go back to visit, I want to stay 2 or 3 days, like actually have some time to not only visit with my mom and stepdad and stuff, but go see some friends. The school didn't drug test. I mean, I guess if I'd been involved in some kind of really stupid accident, but I had a medical card, so they couldn't even have done anything in that case. Like, I was medically allowed to smoke weed. There was nothing they could do. You can't discriminate, you know what I mean? Unless it's a job that you can't be inebriated working, obviously. But I don't know. They never pursued it. I never heard of anybody getting drug tested in the district unless they did something that really implied they were on some hard drugs or some shit.